Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name. And today, I want to talk about why it's easy to blame the writers for everything bad coming out of Hollywood. So and today's topic is, meeting core fan expectations. The myth. So, as I've been watching this writer strike go on, we're at time of filming over 93 days in, and there has been a lot of back and forth going on about people who support the strike and people who don't support the strike. And, things are coming out, still things that had been finished before the strike started or were just being finished up as the strike started, and now they're coming out on television and people are reacting to them. And, as usual, there's good, good reactions and bad reactions, and you have this kind of expectation from a certain amount of fans that, or I don't know, maybe it's better to call it entitlement, this particular thing has to fit my expectations because I am the core fan. This was made for me, so if I don't like it, it's bad. Whew, that's a lot to unpack. This is in particular, around IP franchises like Star Wars or the MCU, Indiana Jones. Notice a lot of these are now owned by Disney. But, big franchises, Star Trek and Transformers, Harry Potter, things that are big names, that are massive household things. Barbie. Let's take that one. That was a very interesting one. So you get this, if something is quote unquote bad or there's a mixed reaction to it, you get a lot of these people saying, this was based on that, and I'm a fan of that, and it should have made me happy, and I don't like what they did to X, Y, and Z, and it's bad. It's their job to make me happy. Now, from a marketing standpoint, okay, I said in the last video, where CEOs and marketing and studios they're making choices. Okay, they're making these deliberate choices. One of the deliberate choices that they're making is they're telling directors and writers not to read certain IP that they're basing stuff off of. So they are telling, they're saying, we want you to make a story using this character and this general idea, and we're going to call it this, which is a comic arc in, comics that was written by X, Y, and Z. But we don't want you to read the comics because we're doing our own thing. Well, we're going to name it after that comic arc. Anyway, this is bad marketing. Okay? It's bad marketing just because you're setting up false expectations for fans. Fans are going to see that name of the comic arc and they're going to think that this is going to be a pretty tried and true adaptation to that comic arc. Civil War, Captain America Civil War that's why it was so freaking controversial, was people thought that Civil War is going to be like that comic book arc. And that comic book arc was already really controversial. So I don't know why, Disney was deciding to touch this with 10 foot full. But they haven't learned that lesson. They haven't learned the lesson. They keep doing this. Because to them, it is easier to market something that already has a rock solid kind of IP and format. They're telling the fans, the core audience, here's this thing, come and see it. So they don't have to sell them the idea of a new story arc with Captain America or Nick Fury or the Winter Soldier or with Rhodey. The War Machine. Here's the comic arc. We're going to name the show after the comic arc. and we want you to come and see it. They don't have to do any selling, okay? So that's bad marketing, because then when you tell the director or the writers, don't read the comic arc, they can't use any of the ideas from the comic arc, to in the show. And so I said we'd come back to this in the last video, so here's the point where we come back to it. And some of this is them literally trying to quote-unquote save money. The Disney Marvel section of Disney will pay a comic writer before agent and lawyer fees $5,000 for rights for the creative arc that they're creating, that they're adapting to the big screen. $5,000 before fees. So the author is not going to get $5,000. They might get like $3,000. They don't get residuals. They don't get anything else. Just $5,000. The comic industry already sucks. This is just making it worse. Okay? So they're doing this so they do not have to pay authors. Star Wars. Let's take Star Wars. Disney decided to dump over 30 years of expanded universe already written by authors like Michael A. Stackpole, Timothy Zahn, A.C. Crispin, Kevin Anderson, or big names, not so big names. They decided to just dump it, toss it all out, toss the baby out with the bathwater, so that they could do whatever they wanted, and they didn't have to pay authors for their creative IP in the Star Wars universe. Han Solo had a great 3-book trilogy about his young life, and then it even covered his adventures in the corporate sector. It even, covered that time period. There was because back in the 70s, the early 80s, they wrote 3 books about the Han Solo adventures, about his adventures in the corporate sector. And then A.C. Crispin, she wrote her trilogy, and she managed to incorporate his adventures in the corporate sector into that trilogy, okay? And then she even tied it to A New Hope. Masterful. Just everything made sense. Toss it out in the bathwater for the Solo movie. Okay, fine, whatever. It's just so they could save money. I would have loved to see those 3 books come to the big screen. That would have been awesome. Learning about the Hutts, the secondary characters, and creating Narshada. Even you could even just do the corporate adventures themselves. Great stuff. We don't want to pay her or her estate. So and then you have this whole thing where they're, they've given, say, Favreau and Filoni, so many shows to write before they get to write a movie, and they're overwhelmed. They're working on the multiple projects. The CEOs have made this decision. Kathleen Kennedy has made this decision to hand a bulk of the Star Wars universe over to Favreau and Filoni. And I don't agree with all their decisions, and, but I can agree that they've got too much on their plate, that there's too much for them to do. And I can ignore what I like of what I don't like of what they're doing, and I can understand that some of what they're doing is not targeted at me, this core Star Wars fan. It's targeted at kids who don't think what they're doing is cringe. They think it's cool. When I was a kid, some of the stuff that they were doing in the Clone Wars, I would have thought it was cool. It's just, but, I'm an adult now, and I just think it's a little weird. Are you sure they would do that? Okay. So you get this kind of expectations among the fans that it's their job to meet the core fans' expectations. All right. No. really. It's the job of writers and directors to meet the expectations of the CEO or producer who is hiring them to do the job. And the CEO and the producers want the stock to go up. That's about it. And the CEO and the producer, might not want what you, the core fan, wants. The core fan is not actually paying the paycheck of the writer. The core fan is not actually the writer's employer. And since the residual checks from streaming are in the matter of cents instead of dollars, it's not a big surprise, at least to me. Writers in the long term probably don't give a shit what the core fan thinks. They aren't going to be paid outside of the initial paycheck anymore, so it's more important what the producer or showrunner thinks for them to get. Then they get their lump sum, and they can move on to the next job and get their next lump sum, because they have no idea how many cents they're going to be making in residuals off that television show, and they don't know if that television show is going to even stay on the service more than 2 to 6 months. Willow is gone. Rise of the Pink Ladies, gone. These prestige cartoons, gone. If you don't know your show is going to stay on to make, Disney Plus to make residuals, what little tiny bits and pieces of residuals that you're going to make, you're going to say what you're going to say. You don't care what the fans think. You already move on to the next project. So the core fan who would watch this over and over and over, they no longer matter. If you're not getting residuals, then, core fan, meh. If subscribers is the goal, then you're not looking for core fans. You're looking for new fans. The 18 to 24-year-old white male is no longer the only audience. Longtime fans, in general, male, of science fiction and fantasy properties are no longer considered the target audience, even if they were the core audience. America is younger, browner, and more diverse than ever, and they want to take this globally. Okay? So you have Japan, you have China, you have India, you have Europe. You're no longer just thinking of one group of people. So they don't care about the core audience. They know they have your money and your views and your subscribe pretty much no matter what. They know you'll come back to hate watch it even. They want kids. They want girls. They want people of color. They want the LGBTQIA plus community to a certain extent. They want new eyes, new subscribers, and new fans. Okay, so this is also, once again, we're going to talk about actors aging out of, action stardom. Older action stars they're getting to the point where it's almost physically impossible for them to take on these roles. And every time, you're seeing these shows where you've had these franchise actors and they're older actors, and so they're doing a show about them. Next to them, or even a more star of them in the show, is a young woman. Usually. Not always, but usually. It's someone there to take on the mantle for the next phase of the franchise. They know boys will go, oh, cute girl. I want to watch the cute girl. Girls will go, yay, girl power. There's someone like me shooting a bow and arrow. I want to shoot a bow and arrow. That was me, by the way. And if they can include a person of color or a flavor LGBTQIA very quietly, it's a bonus. If the POC is the main, they can have the girl's sidekick. Miles has Spider-Gwen. So, unfortunately, the core fan is not their target audience. The new fan, the kids, the young people, that's the target audience. And this goes even to 2D animation. Say Disney. If Disney thought 2D animation or Illumination or DreamWorks, if any of them thought that 2D animation was going to bring them money with the kids over 3D, they would restart their 2D animation studios in a heartbeat. Okay? They've done the research. And they go, kids like 3D in live action, not 2D. We're going to focus on 3D in live action movies. Okay? They would make the movies to draw the parents, to bring their kids, to hook more fans into the massive franchises they've already got. Maybe when you're a teen, 2D animation is cool. See Spider-Verse or Nimona, or a lot of the arcane, like the prestige cartoons, are now aimed at teens. Kids want 3D animation. Teens are like, you know, you're a little older and you're branching out. Maybe you've watched some of the older cartoons or 2D cartoons and you think this is interesting. You're more interested in, you know, the digital 2D cartoon as a teenager than you are a kid anymore. Okay? So, while there are certain fans that are claiming all the writing is bad, take it back. Step away from your franchises. And they claim they want the unions to lose and the CEOs to corpse to break them so they can get good writers and all these bad writers go away. This is not actually going to work because good writers that they bring in will still have to be paid and paid well. Something the CEOs and corporations don't want to do. Because if CEOs and corporations won't pay the writers, they'll just form a union and we're back at square one. We form unions to keep from dragging CEOs out into the streets, beating them, and then tar and feathering them. This is the social contract here. That actually used to happen. Okay? So it's kind of amazing when writers are paid well and can stick to projects for months, you know, if not years at a time, and have enough help in the writer's room and health insurance and be able to pay their bills and less interference on how to adapt things and being able to read the source materials, the quality of the writing goes up. But at the same time, you have to understand that if you are the core audience for some type of franchise or IP, you know, you loved Avatar: The Last Airbender, or you loved, you know, you love Star Wars. You've loved Star Wars since the 70s. Or you love this, that, or the other thing. They know they forgot you. You are no longer the target audience. They want the young people. They want a new target audience. You're like, why are they remaking The Little Mermaid and making her black? Well, little kids like live action stuff, and you know, if they can bring in more butts to the seats with, you know, with a POC actress, they're going to do that. Reviews are not written by little kids. Little kids don't care about lighting. Little kids don't care about skin color. Little kids actually don't care about sexual orientation. A lot of that just goes right over their head. So, I mean, Disney and other studios that make stuff for kids usually do put in jokes for adults as well, because, you know, if you're a parent and you're taking your kid to the theater as a treat, you better have something in there to amuse you as well, okay? But they don't care about that. And the studios know they don't care about that. And they're trying, you know, to, you know, get the parents to bring the kids to something that they love so that they can keep selling merchandise or, you know, keep this franchise going to give the kids a connection to the park. So you're going to be like, so we're going to go to the Disney parks now and there's going to be a white Little Mermaid and a black Little Mermaid. And yes, and why do you care? I'm going to tell you, if you're a little kid, I saw this TikTok. It was adorable. There was a little kid dressed up as a flounder. And, you know, the Little Mermaid actress saw them and she was just like, oh my god. She had to come over and she had to hug them, you know, make sure she got a picture and everything. You know, that little kid is not going to care if that actress, that character player at the park is white or black. They're just going to be like, oh, I just met Ariel. That's so cool. That's all they care about. So it's all about meeting the expectations of new subscribers, new fans, getting new eyes. And you would think that, you know, people would be so excited to be able to share their love of Star Wars, Marvel, whatever, to new people. But it always seems to come down to, it wasn't made for me, I hate it. The writing is bad. The writing is just bad. And we'll go over that next week. Because that's going to take a whole video. I think I have like 5 pages on that one. That might take 2 videos. So, take care of yourselves, my lovelies. Stay safe. Bless. And I'll see you in the next video.